Call the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee to order. Our first item on our agenda is to approve minutes of our April 10th meeting.
Motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Jordan, seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Any additions or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Beatty, our trustee, will give us the investment report.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. We did have one bid, and that is it's a smaller amount. It's just a $28,000, I think. It's a scholarship fund that we do annually for Eagleville High School. And it actually exactly where it was last year at 25 basis points. And then not a lot of bids on that, three bids on that one. And then the LGIP rate actually dropped a basis point to 8 basis points. Haven't talked to Tim McClure. My guess on probably part of that is at the end of February, as those property tax collections come in, there's a lot of new cash, and I'm sure that probably had an impact on the overall return as they were having to take in and invest that new cash.
All right, Eagleville Scholarship. How did they manage to get 0.25%?
Because it's just 28,000.
No.
It's it's obviously a lot less money than. But I mean, that was kind of a bank, and we the other we had a 0.05, which really made me nervous because that was the first bid that came. It's a smaller amount, and we kind of tell them what it's for, and tried to get more than that because on that small amount of money, it really gives them very little because I think it was $80-something this year, where we had times where it's $1,500 was what they could give, and it's in a smaller amount you can get a little bit of. It's going to hurt you bad if you help us, but that's really a hard thing to explain. That as an individual with smaller amounts today, you can actually get more. You think of a larger investors getting a greater return, but because of the safety and the time constraints we have on the short term and the liquid investments, the banks don't have a need. You've got the Fed rate so low that if they need money, they can borrow it from the Fed. So the larger amounts, it's not about building relationships. If I go into my bank with a few $1,000s, they'll give me a little if our relationship has value, where our amounts are actually larger. So it's in these times, it's kind of been a liability. The larger amount has not commanded the return that some smaller, because there's just not the investment need. There's not a place for the banks to go, which is a great question, because you would think in normal terms that the person with the larger amount actually is in better shape. And in this environment, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. So it's an endowed scholarship of $25,000, and they give the interest?
They do, yes. Yeah, and I'm not sure that they don't add to that, but it has. I mean, this is one where we all know it from looking at our books how the decline in interest has affected our interest income. But on that one, where you're writing a check and this is going to a student, you really look at it and say, man, that's between 6% and 25 basis points is a huge difference in return. And there are some higher paying CDs that are under $250,000 that we could even in our policy invest in. What you find, they're very limited. So if you've got $250,000 or $500,000 or even $1 million, you could buy 4 of those at a little return. But at the money we have, there's not many of them out there. Because you can only do up to the insurance with one institution. So it really kind of limits when we have the large amount we have, especially at this time of year.
Motion to approve the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Pugh. And seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Beatty, do you have something else?
I do. We visited with you again. Ms. Jamie Becker was here from the Farmers Market, which opens in the morning at Lane Agri Park, and working on a contract to do the debit, credit, and EBT cards. At this point, we don't have a contract. The processors were not willing to agree to what we needed them to agree to, and the main issue is, by state law, the county cannot indemnify a third party. And those contracts all have an indemnification and hold harmless clause. And we have tried to negotiate that, and because of the size of the market, which it does great for a farmer's market, but in the processors, they're just not willing to go through the legal changes, and our attorneys have worked. And so everybody knows, Ms. Becker, we met 11 months ago, knowing this change was coming to start this process. So it's not, hey, we waited to the last minute. It's been that drawn out a process. And so we're working with 4 vendors. Janie and I have talked multiple times today. She's done a tremendous amount of work to have this available. We're working with 4 vendors even today to see who will work with us on conditions that we can deal with and agree to that clause. So kind of want to present that to you and hope that would you entertain the thought if we can have something maybe by next Thursday's meeting that we could put that on for the full commission, because tonight we're working. We just don't, we haven't got anybody that's committed to helping us with that yet. Is that, Lisa, is that the best way for us to,
We don't have anything to put in front of you, but he is still talking to banks. And we've presented 2 in front of you before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they wouldn't, they just,
When it gets down to the
one of
end.
them we went months. And another person, these kind of approved that they've got state approval to do these things, but they just won't agree to not, to change their contract
You're
clause.
saying the banks are not agreeing to it?
The credit card process, no, it's actually most of the banks, but they'll work through a processor. So there's several parties, and we are working with some local banks who I think may be more agreeable to what we're trying to do. And it's a process we actually go through almost every time we do a banking agreement or any kind of contract. They always write these indemnification clauses, and we go back. It's usually something that we're able to get worked out. For some reason in this, they've just not agreed to do that. There's no really other way to explain it than just, you know, and the market's done $50,000, which is a lot for a farmer's market, but for the processors, just having their legal team do that and approve it. So we're trying to work with some local folks, hopefully that, again, out of community spirit will work with us, and we think that we can get that done. We just haven't at this point.
How do we give him our blessings to do this?
See if this group here would recommend that we, subject to Mr. Beatty and our county attorney being able to provide a properly defined agreement to allow them to bring that forward at the commission meeting.
So they're gonna open tomorrow and they'll be without the
They
ability to
won't
use
have
cards
it
till at
tomorrow.
least next
That's right.
Friday.
Next Friday.
At the earliest,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I'll make a motion to give them that flexibility and just hope they can get that worked out. If this has been going on 11 months,
I'll
it's still
second.
gonna be kinda iffy getting it done by then.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion. Who is the second? Thank you, Commissioner P. Any further discussion relative to this motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Just have all your notes down, because you will be asked questions, I'm sure, next Thursday if you get there.
And Ms. Becker she offered to come, but I knew y'all were familiar from last month, the process, so I thought I'd be glad to present it. And she's got notes and sent lots of emails.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, if you will locate your fund condition report, our finance director, Mrs. Nolan, will start with the development tax report.
In April, we received $499,500 in development tax for the month. That brings our total to $3,480,750. So definitely exceeded our estimate for the year. In that $499,000 is 48 apartment complex in Murfreesboro that generated $63,000 of that total. The rest, I understand that the building codes change May 1st, and so a lot of people were coming in and getting their
Approval before the
Approval.
fees
Getting
change.
Before
their
May
permits before the
Permits.
new restrictions went in place.
Right.
yeah.
Do you know roughly how much, off the top of your head, has been for apartments this fiscal year?
I don't.
Because it
I don't,
seems,
because we've had them along the way, and I don't have that.
just seems like you can't turn around without seeing a complex going up.
That's right. That's right.
Gentlemen, let's move to cash balances.
Schools.
Our cash balances at the end of April totaled $195,542,000, with $187,949,000 being operating funds, $8,592 being borrowed funds. I would note we If you're looking at the debt service fund, you do see the reduction. Just a reminder that we have an interfund borrowing for the Blackman Middle Annex of $7.4 million. So when you add that back in, it looks more comparable to the prior year. Ready to go to the review of revenue. At the end of April, let me just say, in our estimate of the current levy, we estimate about 4.5% as being uncollectible for the whole fiscal year. At the end of April, we were 96.68% collected of the current levy. So we pretty much met our estimate for the whole year. We're 100%. Compared to April of last year, where it was 95.94% collected. So I say that as a good thing. So when you look at those local taxes, just know that that's a driver. And as you look at the bottom, that totals the total amount collected of the whole budget compared to the prior 5 years, you can see in all the funds except the ambulance that we exceed where we were in the last 10 months of the last 5 years. Did that make sense? Made sense to me when it came out, but on the
Same place we were in previous years,
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With 9 months reporting, our sales tax in the rural area is up 15%. When you wrap up all governments reporting on their sales tax, as a county overall, we are 5.44% ahead of where we were the last 9 months. The X on the debt service fund, what is driving that is the interest estimate. And that is caused by the estimate that we thought at that time when we were budgeting that we would be borrowing in the fall. So there was an estimate of revenue off of the interest earned off those bond proceeds awaiting their use. That was my estimate in there. Of course, we didn't borrow it. We're not borrowing it and won't get it until June. So that is what has made that one go below. But all this to say that I do believe that next month we'll be doing all of our revenue estimates and you will see increases to some of those revenue accounts, especially the property tax.
Motion to approve the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, let's go to risk management. Ms. Stinson and Ms. Bowman with CCMSI are joining us too, but we'll start with your financials, please.
If you refer to your Fund 264 for the month of May, to begin, you'll notice that there are some blank fields on the report this month that aren't typically there. The reports from Signal weren't available for me to calculate the spend rate as it pertains to the percentage of the self-funded. They do run fairly consistent, so I would expect that we'll see numbers similar as those. For the self-funded claims, we're at $4.4 million for April of 2014 for a year-to-date per employee per month of $883, with a month per employee per month of $875. When we include our on-site medical clinics, our total per employee per month increases to $913 compared to year-to-date average of $919, compared to prior year-to-date of $856 for a 7.3% increase in our spend rate. Moving on to Fund 266. For the month of April, we're at $1,418,755 compared to prior year of $617,893.
And a lot of that's one item.
And a lot of that does, yes, it is inside of one particular claim.
On that fund, we've already entered into a contract for our actuary that it's our 2-year period when we'll be having a actuary evaluation of our outstanding liability. And when we get that is when I'll be making the adjustments if we need to transfer funds from the general fund to cover and make sure that we're not ending with a loss in this fund.
Gentlemen, if there is no more discussion or questions about the financials, we need a motion for that report.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Baum. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ms. Stinson, a stop-loss insurance renewal.
Last month, we voted on rates for 2015, and included inside of those rates and referenced in the discussion was a 10% increase in stop-loss. What we failed to do was to take a vote on the stop-loss increase, so we brought this back to you today. Our current rate is $5.95 per individual per month, and it will rise to $6.55 for our individual stop-loss, which reflects the 10% that we voted on. And it was part of the budget that we discussed, which has the 0% increase for next year.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner
Second.
Jordan, seconded by Commissioner P. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. And the 2014-2015 property casualty and prime coverage renewal. And welcome, Ms. Bowman with CCMSI.
Thank you. It's good to be here with everybody. We also provided a hard copy in the clear folder there. The first page is going over the exposures compared to last year. You'll see on the left-hand, first column on the left-hand side, it gives you your property values. It's broken down between the county and the schools. And then the next column, you'll see your expiring. These are your total insured values, which is your property values. And then you'll see the renewal numbers, and then the difference, and then the percentage of difference. So for the county, the building and contents, you see it's up about 7% increase. The contents are up approximately 13%. With the schools, you see about a $50 million increase, 6%, and then the contents about 5%. And then it breaks down the miscellaneous equipment, contractors' equipment, and so forth. You'll see that those kind of fluctuated a little bit more. A lot of that pertains to items that were rolled up into the contents value above. So you'll see some of those numbers moving around a little bit. But the overall, if you look in the yellow there, it says total insured values. The overall increase for your property and inland marine is 3%. One of the reasons why we outline this is because this is what underwriters look at when they're actually rating the account. The next one goes into the casualty. You'll see the vehicles, the expiring 662, the renewal 687 for a difference of 25 or 4%. The total insured value, that's your auto physical damage, the values of the vehicles, is up around 8%, and then the overall general operating budget up around 4%.
On that, what's the deductible now, or can you break it down that small with these for one vehicle?
Yeah, on the deductible for the physical damage, it's at $25,000.
It's still there, okay.
Mm-hmm. Then the next section in the blue there is the crime and public officials and educators' legal liability. It's based on the number of employees, so you see the expiring, the renewal and then it's up around 9%, and then the number of students for the school board legal liability is up around 6%. So that just kind of gives you an overview of where you're at. Of course, we all know the county's growing. That's a good thing. The next page is going into the actual premiums and retentions, and this is what I said to the insurance committee. You guys are absolutely flat. The rates are exactly where they were last year. The deductibles, retentions are exactly where they were last year. So the only thing that you're seeing is just the exposure increase from the growth from the county, okay? So the very first, or the second page there is the property, still the same insurance company, which is Travelers. You still have your same 100 million limit there. And then you've got the same retention, 100,000. You'll see the rate at the 0.396, and that's per 100 of building values. You see your total, or I'm sorry, your expiring total insured values. You'll see the expiring quote there in the blue at the top, and then the kind of the mint green. And then you'll see your quoted rate, again, being exactly the same as it was last year, and then your current total insured values, and then the quoted premium. So you'll see overall the exposure increase was 3%, therefore your premium increase was 3% because the rate was flat. So from underwriter standpoint and from our standpoint from an insurance, it's a 0% increase. All the inland marine limits remain the same as well. The third page, last page, is going to break down the casualty coverage, and you'll see under the casualty what consists of the general liability, the law enforcement, public officials, employment practices, educators, legal, auto physical damage, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and crime coverage. Again, the same insurance carrier, Brit Global, same expiring limits and retentions. You'll see the expiring premium there in the mint green, the $593, the quoted premium at the $628,040. Down at the very bottom there, you see in the yellow the terrorism coverage. In the past, Rutherford County's never opted to take that type of coverage because we were talking about this is for the casualty lines. This does not pertain to your property that the county owns. This is for the liability side. Like I said, last year it was not purchased. By law, we have to quote that to you, and so you'll see in the far right column the option to quote for the terrorism is $6,415. You had an exposure increase of 6%, therefore a premium increase of 6%, but again, really no difference.
Just to add, we did take a vote on the terrorism, excuse me, and it was voted down in the insurance.
I got a question on the front page. This may be more for the mayor. It says the number of students changed from 38,735. Well, it went up 2,223. That's not in 1 year, is it? Because we didn't gain 2,200 students in our school system in 1 year. We gained like 1,200. And did we hire 544 people last year? I mean, these numbers look a little more like they're over multiple years. Is that from the last renewal maybe or something?
Yeah,
which would be about 3 years ago.
Right. We're comparing off last year, and we could be running behind, in trying to catch up from years past. That could be.
Well, the 41,000 students is about right at the percentage. Yes. So that, but the 38 may be.
The other number could have been the last time it was renewed a couple of 3 years ago, because I just know we didn't hire 544 people in the last year, and we didn't grow 2,200 students either one.
Right.
But over 3 years, we probably did.
Right. When we start the renewal process, we obviously work with Ms. Stinson and her department, and then the questionnaires are sent out to the individual departments within, and then we're just rating basically on the information we get back.
Number of employees includes part-time and full-time.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a lot of part-time EAs and.
But they haven't increased that much either.
We haven't increased 544 employees in 1 year.
Years,
It may be over
numbers
3
do.
years,
Yeah.
opening a couple of schools and different things, but
Right.
sorry to gotten off track.
Well, while we're off there, let me go back to vehicles again. It just bothers me that our deductible is $25,000 on a vehicle. What would it cost us if we went, say, $2,000? Is it even possible for us to do that?
Right. We could definitely check on it.
I mean, it just seems unreasonable that, every vehicle that we've got in the county, maybe some of our pursuit vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
might be classified differently, but I don't know. $25,000 deductible seems awful stout to me.
I remember having this discussion several years ago, and it was gonna,
The premium
you're gonna
was
have to
substantial.
crash a lot of cars to ever make up a difference in the premium. I mean, it
Well,
was
that's
a
what I was wondering.
tremendous
What is the
amount, you know.
premium?
Right, and if you recall, and this has been a couple of years back, the actual deductible was $100,000, and we actually, when we went to Brick Global last year, we brought it back down to the $25,000. Now, I will say this, your previous carrier, which was ACE, took quite a hit on the auto physical damage when the hail storm came, and y'all had 2 of those in the history with ACE. And so they paid out quite a bit of money there. So
And
that's pretty much where they're looking at it as
And I
far as.
understand that, right.
And the other thing to factor in too would be the age of a lot of our vehicles that we have and the value of those vehicles as well. When they're quoting, you know, you have a hailstorm, how many were you gonna total out versus, you know, what the actual expense of that vehicle is in our books. So those are the type of factors that they're gonna consider.
But Commissioner P, I'll be glad to go back and talk to underwriters to see if they would.
I was just
bring
curious
that
as to what the
retention
price
down.
would be.
Right.
And it's been a while since I've seen those figures.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, I do remember, you know, of course, when we had that hail damage and then we got hit with this the next year.
Right.
Nissan had the same problem. They put up tents. What was
The
that?
insurance
That's
carrier
the
put up
insurance
a
carrier
tent.
put up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why they got the umbrella in that commercial.
That's
They're out there
right.
covering those cars up.
So thank you.
Sure.
If you ready for a motion?
We need a motion, yes.
Motion to approve the renewal of CCMSI.
And I'll second this motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions from Mrs. Bowman? Okay, all in excuse me, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you. Thanks.
Long life insurance, sorry.
Okay, gentlemen, we will begin with the general fund budget amendments. And our first amendment request is from our county clerk, Ms. Crowell. Good evening.
Evening.
And what is your request, please, ma'am?
To transfer 1,000 out of the maintenance agreement line item and 1,000 out of the gasoline line item to put the total of 2,000 into my office supply line item. Then this would finish us out the rest of the year for our office supplies.
Motion to approve.
I second it.
Commissioner P., seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Any further discussion?
Did good. It's all what you
Call the
got.
roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gregory? Good evening, Mr. Gregory. And you have 3 amendments, and we will take that as one vote.
The first amendment is to recognize a grant that we received from PetSmart Charities for expenditures for the National Adoption Weekend. We're also asking to take $7,000 out of the gasoline pool to get us to the remainder of the fiscal year in our gasoline account. And then $625, we're asking to put that back into our drugs and medical supply line item. That is the final donations that we received towards the animal abuse training that we hosted in March.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer, seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Juvenile Court, good evening.
Hello, hello. Well, I do not like coming back and asking for more money, but that's where we are this evening. We have run out of funds to pay for our part-time magistrate. You know, we have one full-time and then we have a part-time. And we do not have enough funds for the remainder of the year to pay him for the cases that we've got scheduled through the end of June. And I'll be glad to answer any questions about the statistics that we've got there for you on those.
There's a second part to the amendment, and the judge has an employee who is planning to leave employment at the end of the fiscal year, but there would not be sufficient money to pay out the accrued benefits. So we've also have that built into this amendment, 2007-20, to be able to pay out accrued annual time.
I'll make a motion to approve this. I mean, it's a bill we've got accrued, and we definitely are gonna try these cases that we've got in front of us, so we don't really have a lot of choice on this.
Commissioner P., thank you.
I'll second it.
Second.
I will say, since Commissioner Sandlin in here, he would say, are you sure you didn't look within your budget to see if you could find any money?
And I appreciate you speaking for him, and he would, and my answer would be, I was hoping I could use those 2,200 students I just heard about that has increased my docket, but I can't use that as a reason, can I? We're busy. We are just taking care of having courts, almost three courts, 3 days a week now. And to get it done because of our time restraints. And that's what it has amounted to on that. So do you have any other questions I'd like to answer?
And it's the state that's put on the time restraints, right? That the cases have got to be
Statute,
trial.
yes,
Yeah.
because if we do abuse and or remove your child, you have a hearing within 3 days, 30 days. It's urgent because we're dealing with the children. We hold them, they have their hearings. You know, we're the most restraint court that there is on time restraint.
That's why we have a part-time.
That's why we have a part-time. And they usually do everything, he does everything that's temporary because they can't appeal that, so they can't get a do-over. And they do those emergency hearings and those things that do pop up. And there's not any way to really plan for those.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank y'all very much.
From the Sheriff's Department, good evening.
Good evening.
And gentlemen, before we start with his budget amendments, will you please scroll down and find item number 10 on our agenda? And we need to do the acceptance of his GHSO alcohol enforcement grant and the amendment before we get up to his regular amendments. So if you'll go to item 10. And Mr. Russell, I alerted you that we were going to do that. So if you will give us some information, and we'll take this as a motion separately before we start your budget amendments.
Yeah, the Governor's Highway Safety Office wanted to increase our amendment, or our grant money for the DUI traffic checkpoints and saturation, all that we do, by another $100,000 for this year. And so they give us extra $100 grand. There's no matching funds.
Okay. So what this motion is accept that grant amendment.
That just means there'll be more checkpoints. Hope so.
Probably.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Jordan,
Second.
thank you. Seconded by Commissioner P.
Do you ever do any on your own, or are you allowed to do them on your own?
No, they're all through the THP.
Okay.
Yeah, we basically just, THP doesn't have enough staff to do them all on their own completely, so we're back up. They actually run for them.
But they're all on state or federal
Yes, sir.
roads?
Just out of curiosity, on those, do y'all film them? I mean, you do it through the
Yes.
windshield camera?
Yeah, yes.
That would be one place I would think might be a good idea to have a just GoPro of your own.
Yeah.
Everybody
versus
else films.
getting
Their bells going.
Against somebody putting one out there that they've
That's right.
edited.
That's
so-
right. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Something
And
to
actually, we
think
do
about.
have a lot of video that backs things up.
Well, with them
So,
giving you that kind of grant
audio.
money, my question is, could
Yeah.
you use it for something?
Well, this
along
one's
those
just for
lines?
overtime only, the extension is, but we do get some that's for equipment, and we use it for that kind of stuff.
Well, that might be a
Some
good
good
use of
advice.
some of your
Yes.
equipment.
I know they've got some things planned for that, like of that nature as well. So.
Well, I know there's a lot of departments across the country that are going to that, so.
Mm-hmm.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Yes. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Okay, now, gentlemen, if you will go back up to our general fund budget amendments, Mr. Russell will work his way through 11 of these.
Take a deep breath. Okay. So, of course, the first one on your list refers to that grant itself, which will be $99,860. We'll put that, of course, into the overtime on the sheriff's side and related benefits. We'd like to pull $45,000 out of our repair and maintenance of vehicles, which is item number 2. I need to put funds into my food prep supplies line item, contracts with private agencies, and our new vehicle equipment line item. The third one, we're going to pull $19,000 from our maintenance agreement on the sheriff's office side and $3,000 from our office equipment on the sheriff's office side. I'd like to put $10,000 into our data processing equipment line item on the sheriff's office side as well, and data processing services, a total of $12,000 into that on the sheriff's office side as well. On the jail side, we'd like to pull $9,000 out of maintenance agreements and put that into repair and maintenance of equipment on the jail side. Then on the jail side as well, we'd like to pull $2,000 out of the office equipment line item, put that into our data processing equipment line item. We're doing a lot of cleanup work here for the end of the year. The next one we have is where we had the auction, and so these are all of the sheriff's office vehicles that got auctioned off. These are non-drug seizure vehicles. So that sale generated $28,255. We'd like to put that back into our new vehicle equipment line item. Then we have a request of $46,198 that comes out of undesignated fund. Where lightning hit the building and tore up our circuit board and our big fuse panel and everything. We had to rent we had a couple days with no power. We had to rent a generator, and we'd like to put that back into our repair and maintenance of the building on the jail side. Then number 8, we have sale of materials, and we'd like to recognize that revenue. We'd like to put $229 of that into the other supplies line item on the jail side, and then $167 will go into the office supplies line item on the sheriff's office side. We recycled some material, so we want to recognize that revenue of $636, and we'd like to put that into our sheriff's office side other supplies line item, which will probably be for the vegetable garden. We also have donations. We want to recognize those donations of $470. We're going to put that into the Operation Integrity and a few additional supplies for the inmate garden as well, the vegetable garden. Then on number 11, we'd like to recognize revenue from contributions from other government agencies and put that into our in-service training and repair and maintenance equipment line items, which was $2,550, and split those up, $1,050 into training and $1,500 in repair and maintenance of equipment. And that's the 11. And I'll stop talking.
Got a question for our finance director. The $46,198 from the lightning strike, is that where you recommend funding that from? Could we get that out of maybe development tax or something? I mean,
that's
is this the best place to get that?
This is fine to get it out of unassigned.
While we're talking about that, would it be possible to use some of the money from the sale of equipment 2 lines above instead of from the unassigned fund balance?
Well, I may have another use for other money. We're working on the jail side food line item. I'm trying to save for that just in case. So I didn't really plan to blow $46,000 on electrical repair. We didn't budget for that this year. That was kind of a surprise. We had a really bad storm on a Wednesday night. I think y'all remember the real bad lightning storm we had here in the county. And the only thing I figure is that building got hit pretty hard to knock all that stuff out. So. But in a lot of our line items, we're starting to hit empty on.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, the lightning strike would be unexpected, and we're getting late into the fiscal year, so a lot of these line items are ending up with low balances. Of course, you know you got to make those repairs, whereas with the using the money for additional food later on, you don't know whether you actually need it in
Well,
there or not. I mean, you may.
I'm thinking I'm gonna need it. That's why I may be back next month and have to make one more amendment for the end of the
I
year.
guess we could say, in the event he does not use the money, it's gonna increase our ending fund balance.
It'll go right back there
And
anyway.
we're not gonna
Yes,
allow
sir.
him to use money for a purpose that's not needed. So I think it sort of will net itself out, we believe.
Just a question along those lines, since we just renewed it. What is the deductible on a single building like this?
100.
That's what I was thinking. So we missed our.
I need to get it strike 3 times next time. instead of once. If you want
But
to-
it's
All in the
also
same occurrence,
by
huh?
then, isn't it? I mean, I think that if you had something really terrible, for 4 buildings, it
Yeah,
would be
if it had other
100,000.
buildings involved
Yeah.
and it
In the same
exceeded 100,000
instance.
in the same event, yes. Just like hail, if it
That's how we
damages
got out.
cars all over.
On the hill, we
that
paid
all-
one
that all
deductible
gets
and they
lumped up
picked
into 25.
X number of cars, yeah.
It's not just per car, it's the event.
And Jeff, one-
Was that the night that we had the roof damage?
I don't know, I mean,
It was a Wednesday night, I remember that. Because then Thursday and Friday, we were without power. We had that generator running.
I think Melissa will be trying to group everything
we can,
together.
we can follow up on that and see if it's a
Yeah.
hopefully we can
Combined
group them
events might
together and
exceed that.
combine. It's 100,000. Is it 100,000 per event? Make sure,
Event.
Mhm.
in which case that might qualify, so.
Does the jail have lightning rods on it?
I'm sure it does, yeah. Oh, yes, it actually does, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's,
Never seen
I've
it.
heard that's the tallest building in Rutherford
Yeah,
County.
it probably is, yeah. The view's great from the top up there, I'll say that.
Well, seriously,
But it's-
I've heard that it
Yeah.
is, you know, we're a little bit higher elevation
Oh, that's true,
here, but
yeah.
the building's the tallest.
It's neat to kind of go up to the over edge and look over it. If you have a fear of heights, it'll definitely take care of you there. Because there's no handrail.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Jordan,
Second.
thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Russell? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you. We're going to zip through here if you don't mind, and then if you'll hang with
Oh,
us.
sure, I'll be back.
We're going to try to get through these budget amendments really quickly,
Okay.
and we'll call you back. From our circuit court clerk,
Hello.
hello.
I have 2 just budget amendments, transfers. One is to finish out the equipment purchase this fiscal year for the software. And then the other is to move some items to finish out office supplies for this year.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Commissioner Schaefer, seconded by Commissioner P. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hooker? We have, from Emergency Management, a Homeland Security grant acceptance and the amendment. We'll do that one first, and then we'll take your second one.
Yes, ma'am. We're looking to increase line 709, other equipment, to $140,196 for the 2013 Homeland Security Grant. That covers, on the response side, $49,705 for decontamination equipment for the Smyrna Fire Department hazmat team, urban search and rescue equipment, and hazardous materials monitoring equipment, and surface air supply equipment for the Special Operations Response Team, and $81,656 for the Laverne Police Department for body armor and night vision, and the remainder is night vision for the Sheriff's Department, and then another $8,835 for Urban Search and Rescue Train the Trainer series that's currently undergoing at this time. So that's for the Homeland Security grant.
That's it, all inclusive?
Yes, sir.
What you just,
All that under the 140, 196.
how about sending a copy of that itemized list you just wrapped off to public safety so we can review it?
Absolutely.
Or at least me.
You bet.
Gentlemen, we need a motion.
And the grant is behind it.
Move to approve.
Commissioner
Make a motion.
Jernigan,
I'll second.
and seconded from Commissioner P. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Hooker? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Gentlemen, you're going to have to scroll over to page 28 behind that document, and then 28 for the Lynch Hill Tower amendment.
For Lynch Hill Tower, this is a critical communications site that I'm sure you all are familiar with. We're looking to increase line 399 under other contracted services by $11,600 for contract work with the County Highway Department. They have estimated that cost will completely repair very much needed road repair up to the tower site. It's been suggested by the mayor that we fund this by decreasing engineering services by $9,850, and EMA will decrease line 412 diesel fuel by $1,750 to conduct these repairs.
This is very, very much needed.
Well, and I understand, and I'm fixing to make a motion, but I do have a question. Why could this not go on our books as a county road and be repaired by?
I don't know, the county would have, highway department, road department would have to actually adopt that.
They have certain standards
It
for
has
county
something to
road.
do with
Will
the
not be
lease
built
that
to
we
their
have for
standard.
access
Yeah.
into the.
So it's not county owned,
No,
it's just
sir.
leased?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, if you were to accept,
You can tear it up to a certain
It's not determined
sub-
as a road. So.
if you were to accept a substandard road, you'd open the door to other roads that don't meet the county standards that the county cannot take over until they meet those standards.
Well, if it, being county,
Yeah.
if it was county properties, which
Yeah.
is what I was thinking, then we ought to upgrade the road to it. But since it's not, well, I'm gonna make a motion to approve this amendment.
Second.
Commissioner P, seconded by Commissioner Jordan. This is for the Lynch Hill Tower amendment.
I could keep it locked too,
Yes, sir, we do.
so you ain't gonna be no road for public use.
No more copper thieves.
How far off is the tower off of?
It's approximately a mile, and it's very rough terrain. It's up a ridge line, and there's some areas where it's a sheer drop on either side of the road.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an amendment from Fire and Rescue, Mr. Farley. Good evening, Mr. Farley.
Good evening. I'm requesting $6,800 out of the county fuel line item to $5,500 into my diesel fuel line item and $1,300 into my gasoline line item.
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, seconded
Second.
by Commissioner Baum. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Farley.
Thank you.
The next is from the property assessor, but really it's from the finance office and correcting a budget entry.
And this is to place the amendment that you did last month for contracting out the audits for the personal property to put it in the assessor function instead of the reappraisal function.
You say we've already corrected
It's
that?
housekeeping.
Mhm.
Because really, the auditing somebody's, what they report is not a reappraisal. It's just, I mean, it is part of the function of the assessor. And the reason, and what that comes into play is we charge the cities yearly for those audits of personal property. We bill the cities every 4 years for the reappraisal. So that's what we've always done, and we try to keep those separate. So anyway, my oversight didn't catch that last month when it was presented. And I've already spoken to Mr. Mitchell.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Jordan,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. From juvenile detention. Good evening, Ms. Dew.
Good evening. The budget amendment before you tonight is from within my existing budget. I'd like to move $1,000 from maintenance and building repair and $500 from maintenance and vehicle repair into, for a total of $1,500 into other equipment line item to take care of a motherboard that shorted out in our jail management system unexpectedly.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner P, thank you, seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Garrett, local health services. Your
Hello.
budget amendment.
Yes, I have some unexpected maintenance issues that have come up, so I want to transfer some funds within my budget from $499 other supplies to maintenance repair for the building, $3,000.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner P, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. And are you going to stay for some of the grants later on?
Yes,
Okay,
I
so I'll be
can.
calling you back in a few minutes.
No
then.
problem.
County buildings and maintenance.
This
Mrs.
is-
Nolan.
This is a request to move $10,900 from maintenance equipment into the other supplies and materials that will hopefully get them through to the end of the year.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Baum. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. We have two amendments from the Finance Office.
This amendment is, we did a review of all the health insurance to make sure that we had sufficient funds to the end of the year. We only have two functions that we need to adjust, and that is Chancery for $1,600 and the Correctional Workhouse for $4,500, coming out of our pooled insurance amount of a total of $6,100.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner P, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jordan. You look like you had a question.
Yeah, it was
Commissioner
about something else. No,
Oh,
wait.
okay. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mrs. Nolan?
Oh, are you, I didn't know if you had a question.
Oh.
Yeah, I did, but this is about one that we just had at the health department. Because this, is there another one on finance? Okay, we'll
The
do that,
next
and
one?
well, before we go to the next, I'll just ask.
Okay.
Okay. The second one is to ensure that we have sufficient funds to pay legal services, and this is the legal services that, that we place in the mayor's budget to account for litigation, some litigation costs. We're already exceeding our $30,000 estimate, and so we're putting $20,000 to hopefully get that through, for us to the end of the year.
Motion to approve.
I'll
Commissioner
second
Jordan.
that too. I mean,
Seconded by Commissioner P.
Don't have any choice but pay your bills.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mr. Russell?
Yeah.
Wait.
Well, he's coming up, can I ask about?
Oh, yes.
the sewage backup in
At the health
gas line, right?
department.
And my question is, does
You don't want to come up with
Does
that.
the county maintenance take care of that, the sewage, or do you get somebody else?
This was used, an outside contractor had to take care of that, and it was a difficult problem, and they injured some of the work when they were doing that.
Well, the question
And we
would
had
be,
repairs.
are they insured and they
Yeah,
took
aren't
care
they
of their
bonded?
part of this?
I don't know, we could ask about, I doubt it.
We need to find out about that, so.
Well, I can tell you what, where we came to at that, they called the before you dig line to find out where the lines were, to make sure that, and apparently they were given bad information.
One call?
Yeah, the one call.
One call
So-
doesn't always get it just right, you know.
Right, right. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
and it was an emergency because we were gonna have to shut the clinic down if we couldn't get this fixed. So, when it's an emergency, they'll do it over the phone. And you can imagine that's not real accurate, but they were trying to, you know, keep us going in business with that. So-
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't negligence.
No, no. And Ben, our maintenance director, facilities director, he was very involved, and they called one dig to make sure they actually had called. And I mean, they did a lot of, the facility director did a lot of follow-up to make sure that there was really nobody kind of at blame, that everybody had in good faith done the best they could. And so that was the advice that Ben gave me.
So when the gas leak occurred, did that shut you down?
Well, no, they were able to shut it off immediately. It just was really, really cold. So it was really, really cold. It happened to be in the middle of winter, and we have gas heat there. So the facility was very cold, but we were able to keep going. They just shut the gas off immediately.
That's your choice, either a sewage backup or a gas leak. That's
Yeah.
not a good situation.
Either one could easily shut you down, you know, especially when you're doing the work we do at the health department, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, we're ready for item number 6, which is a drug fund budget amendment. Mr. Russell.
So, referring to the auction we had earlier, this is the drug fund seizures that we had auctioned off a few weeks back. It generated revenue of $92,095. We'd like to put that in the drug fund line item for law enforcement equipment.
It's got to go. Motion to approve.
Commissioner Schaefer, seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. The special purpose fund budget amendment, Mr. Russell?
Yes, we had asset forfeiture funds this month, month of April, for $6,011.15. And we'd just like to put that in our general equipment line item in the DEA fund.
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Baum. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Quick question on
Yes, sir.
that. I know that's asset
Yes, sir.
forfeits. Is that money that, same question our other commissioner was asking, that we could use in other places, or is that tied to specific uses?
It's one of those funds that's got all the special
That's-
restrictions to it.
The one before it would've worked, though.
The drug fund has the restrictions. This one could.
Well, that's what I was wondering when I saw the.
The $6,000 one or the $92,000 one?
The $6,000 one
$6,000.
can.
It's got some flexibility,
It can use
yeah.
for building.
But you're probably gonna continue to hear those kind of questions, so you can find places where we could use
Yeah,
those.
believe me, yeah, I'm wiping out almost all of our line items. As we presented at Public Safety the other night, we're trying to find ways to cut things left, right, and sideways. And we're doing pretty good. We're getting down to almost the nitty gritty, but I've still got a couple of line items I'm watching, and I'm kind of saving over here, thinking at the last minute I may need. And so, and of course, when that happened, we called the mayor's office, and they had said, well, go ahead and do what you need to do. And so that's what we've done so far. And they agreed to help us out on that. So that's kind of where we're going right now. Because I do have some other budget amendments, I think, coming next month, unfortunately.
We just try and watch the unassigned fund balance, even though I think the last couple of months we haven't taken as much out of it as we have at other times.
In the end of the year, though, it'll get worse before it gets better. You know.
Thank you for your time.
Only got one more month to do it, though.
2 chances.
Yeah, we got an awful lot of meetings in that next month,
Yeah.
so that they can sneak in here.
Mr. Sandvig, general purpose school fund budget amendments. And you have quite a few
Yes, I
to
do.
present tonight. Gentlemen, we'll let Mr. Sandvig just work through his amendments and take this as one vote. And if you need to stop at any time, just give me a signal.
Our first amendment is for career ladder and extended contract. We're reducing both the budgeted revenue and the related expenditures by $145,654. The extended contract funds have been slowly dropping over the years. I think we used to be about 600,000. We're barely over 100,000 now. And extended career ladder, people are retiring. So our requested motion is to amend the general purpose school fund budget by reducing $145,654 in state revenues for career ladder, account 46610, and extended contract programs, account 46612, and reducing our budgeted expenditures by that same amount. And this is state flow-through money. My next amendment is the certified staff cleanup. It reallocates $391,265 in already budgeted teacher pay and related benefits of $38,019 for a total of $429,284. That is 0.3% of our teacher budget. So yeah, the dollars are big, but it's a relatively small amendment. These changes are due to staff changes and reassignments made since the budget was initially prepared last spring, and it includes no new expenditures or positions. Our requested motion is to amend the general purpose school fund budget by a total of $429,284 in already budgeted teacher pay and related benefits as presented. Medical insurance. This amendment reallocates 0.7% of our budgeted employee medical insurance and life insurance expenditures, $270,665. The changes are due to medical insurance changes made during open enrollment and staff changes since last spring. No new expenditures are included. And our requested motion is to amend the general purpose school fund budget by a total of $270,665 in already budgeted employee medical insurance and life insurance expenditures as presented.
Question. Do you have more than $270,665 in already budgeted employee medical insurance and life insurance sitting there now? I mean, you say this is already budgeted, but it came out in January with the increases, right?
I think what he's doing is
I'm moving it
into-
line to line.
into
Oh,
functions.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
okay.
where we have people now, especially in a small
Okay.
department. If you, one person changing or leaving and will totally change from last year's number.
I thought it was an anticipation type thing of what was
No.
gonna happen
No.
last January.
No,
Okay.
no, it's all handled. The next amendment is our miscellaneous revenues, and it cleans up miscellaneous revenue accounts, increases our mixed drink revenues by $53,000, and adds $118,461 in net revenues and the same amount in related expenditures to this year's general purpose school budget. $504,060 of the revenues are being moved to new accounts that the state wants us to use, that we didn't have last year when we did the budget. And this requested motion is to amend miscellaneous revenue accounts in the general purpose school fund budget by a net increase of $118,461 as presented, and to amend the related $118,461 in related expenditures as presented.
Donations?
Donations. We are increasing our donation and contribution revenues by $92,505 and the related expenditures. The amendment also moves, and this is state money, $16,720 in materials and supplies from the coordinated school health budget to health equipment. Most of this year's coordinated school health equipment budget and we've made some grants and donations are being used for walking tracks at our schools. And that program is entirely funded by the state, and then additional grants and donations that we get. And our requested motion is to amend donations and contributions revenues account 44,570 by $92,505, and to add $92,505 in related expenditures, and to amend $16,720 in materials and supplies from the coordinated school health budget to health equipment as presented.
Motion approved.
We still have a couple more.
Couple more.
I thought you were through.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it calls. Adult education. This amendment adjusts our adult education revenues between state, a decrease of $27,515, and federal funds, which got a little extra money, an increase of $34,042. And we, of course, have to budget the expenditures for that additional $6,527 for this federal award. It's a reimbursement grant, so we spend the money on allowable expenditures and we get reimbursed. Our requested motion is to amend the adult education revenues between state and federal funds and to budget the additional $6,527 in federal funds that were awarded to the system.
And classified staff.
Classified staff. This amendment reallocates $209,965 in already budgeted classified staff pay and related benefits of $42,103 for a total of $252,068. The changes are due to staff changes and reassignments since the budget was originally prepared. We do have one new position. We had to add an hourly nurse because we got another student who requires a one-on-one nurse. So we have a little latitude there. This is 0.7% of our classified budget. Our requested motion is to amend the general purpose school fund budget by a total of $252,068 in already budgeted classified staff pay and related benefits as presented.
Yeah, most of this is, as you said, already budgeted.
Right.
And how much of these changes, or do you have a total on all of these? It's actually, I would call new money.
The only new is that nurse.
Well, that's why I was
Right.
asking. So
And I am, another reason the percentage is up a bit on this one is we had put money in for training for our new attendance system. I think we're going to need more in June. So we've increased secretarial clerical hours in schools who will be doing that, receiving that training.
Well, I didn't want somebody sitting there listening to this,
Yeah, no.
thinking that we were, 400,000 here,
Right.
92,000
Right.
here.
No.
That this is money that we're pulling out of our hat. No, it's
Right.
not. It's already been budgeted.
Budgeted.
You're moving it from one account to the
One
other.
account for, it covers existing staff except for that one nurse. And again, when those students come in, this is the first time I think we've had to have two nurses at school. But it could happen to us anywhere, so.
Make a
Ready for your
motion to
motion.
approve the request.
Commissioner Schaefer, was that your motion?
Yes.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jordan.
I think we had an echo between.
Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Sandvig on any of these amendments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mr. Sandvig, an Education Capital Projects Fund Budget Amendment.
Yes. We need to replace a chiller at Blackman Elementary School. We have to add it to this year's projects in order to have it in place when school starts in August, or we pay $30,000 to replace it. I think it was 30. To repair it, and we still have to replace it. So that's why we're asking to go in fund balance for this one. The other one that we had to do, we were able to cover out of the general purpose school maintenance budget. We can move $50,000 from our completed central annex windows project and $1,750 from the completed Oakland High paving project. Then we are asking to take $41,520 from account 34,685 committed for capital projects in order to fund the balance of this project. And our requested motion is to amend the capital projects fund by moving $41,520 from account 34,685 committed for capital projects in order to fund the balance of the $93,270 chiller replacement at Blackman Elementary. As presented.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner P, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Baum. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Sandvig. Ms. Garrett, will you join us again, please? And we have, I think, 3 grants
Yes.
or contracts, not grants, contracts that you will need to help us with.
Yes.
Gentlemen, remember, we've already done item 10, so item 11 is approval of a contract with Middle Tennessee State University for the health department. Item number 11.
Yes, this was, we received, if you remember a couple months ago, I came before you, we received some tobacco settlement funds to the health department to do a tobacco program. And this is where we are asking MTSU, who have an expert program called Smart Moms, to be our partner in that. And so we needed an agreement between the two of us so that we could do that. So that's what this agreement is.
And the only money the county's spending is our grant money.
That's right.
Oh.
That's exactly right. That we received from the state. Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Jordan, seconded by Commissioner Schaefer.
I don't think I've got any conflict of interest here, but I probably should state that I'm an employee of Middle Tennessee State University.
But you probably don't deal with this grant.
No.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. And item number 12, employee services agreement with Tennessee Department of Health.
So this is our annual agreement for employee supplement contract that we do.
We do this every year. This is a supplement.
We'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner P, thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. And then our grant contract with the Tennessee Department of Health.
Which this is amazing. We have this so
I
early.
know.
You know, usually I'm coming to you several months into the budget.
I know,
to
the
get
finance
this.
office, I think, are still in amazement.
I know, I was too. So
Oh, we usually got just like in November.
Yeah, exactly.
We must have extra money this year. So.
So I presented to Health and Ed this budget, but this is the official contract now, just confirming this is all state dollars that just we get reimbursed every penny that we spend on this contract. So that's what we need this for.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner P, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Baum. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Item 14, we have a contract with Health Connect America for juvenile court and youth services.
This is a replacement contract. The other one was with Genesis. And this is for what they refer to as the training tracks part of, this is Miss Bigby's juvenile youth services. Thank you. The contract is $46,448, and the money is pretty much passed through the county would be passed through to Health Connect.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Jordan, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner P. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Okay, gentlemen, we are ready for the 2014-2015 budget overview. And the personnel of the finance office is forcing us to...
We don't get notebooks?
To give up our notebooks.
What we gonna write on? Our
These
hand?
are your notebooks. And would you believe this is what she's going to give us tonight?
Oh, my goodness. And I actually ran for re-election.
She's got your name on it. I feel funny.
Joyce, Doug, Charlie Baum, and Robin.
They're just forcing me to go into the 21st century, even though I'm going to be yelling, kicking, and screaming.
Okay, so.
There's no lanyard on this.
Okay, so as we go through the budget this year, it's going to be, if you go into budget overview, under your tab, you have the overview and all the funds. So we'll be going through each of these funds. All this information in these tabs are on your flash drive. So you, instead of taking your notebook home, you take this home. Okay.
How long will it take my printer to print that off?
Well, you won't have to print unless.
About
okay.
a month.
So, for tonight, let me put this in here. This is not a good one. For tonight, I printed out the overview. So, in case you really didn't want to go for this, you have your choice. Y'all pass that down.
Computer. What if you don't have a computer?
You can come into our office and we'll share it with you.
Do I get travel time? Do I get travel time?
Shirley's office that's been vacated has a computer. Assist you in there.
Okay.
And if you want to practice, instead of with the security blanket she just gave us, we can give it a little practice tonight on our iPads.
The flash drive's under the iPad.
Yeah.
Even I know that.
Yeah. So just go to item 15 on our agenda.
You want to go? Yes, you go to there.
Doesn't fit this, does it?
Well, you know, I
No.
thought that it doesn't.
There's not a flash drive on an iPad.
But
I know that.
just go to item 15 on your agenda.
Yes. Okay, we're only going to go through the
Flash drives
overview.
are actually getting to be a thing in the past, but so if you use iPads,
I know.
you don't have a PC or a laptop, then you're out of luck.
Well, see, I've got it both ways.
Okay.
So you can pull it down from your iPad. We'll be able to get to it that way too. Okay, as we go through, and I'll go through here. On the first page is what I'm trying to demonstrate to you and is to give you is pretty much what we've done in the current fiscal year. This is showing you our estimated revenues and what changes we've made through April. And I'll just pick the general fund. We've increased our revenue estimate by $1.5 million and our appropriations by $2.7 million for a net decrease of our estimated ending fund balance of $1,163,000. Go to the, third page. Commissioner Baum, I think you talked about the amount of times that we've been into fund balance. This page demonstrates all the times that we have hit fund balance, and we've hit restricted fund balance for public safety and for the capital restricted for capital projects, that's for our development tax money that we set aside specifically. This is just a reminder of what we've done. On the unassigned fund balance, we've hit that for $779,000, but $650 of it is that just in case we settle on that D&J property prior to us getting the bond proceeds. So when you take that off, we really have not hit fund balance this year like we have in past years. I'd like to talk about the certified tax rate for 2014 with the reappraisal. Our current property tax rate is $2.56.52. Certified rate is $2.49 to 49.68
That's the official certified rate.
That's the
I
one
didn't
they
know we already
signed.
had that, but that's already, that is a.
Right, that's one they've signed.
Mhm.
So in beginning the budget and estimating the revenues, we've estimated the property tax based on the same ratio as the starting point. So the general fund received 26% of the total property tax in the current year. They'll receive 26. When I say receive, that's what we started with the budget estimates. So next year, 65-21. Just so that as we go through, you understand how I spread that estimate of the property tax. So 25652 to 24968 is where we begin.
It's interesting to watch over the years. We start off with a nickel in educational capital projects, and it's went to 0.45, 0.43, and it's slowly getting away from the nickel it started off to be years ago.
Right, right. But yet it is more money. With the estimates from the assessors on the certified rate, we are estimating, after an estimate of 4.5% uncollectible, receiving $152,200,000 from the current levy. Of that, $10,460,000 would go to the city school system for their portion of the city of the property tax that's allocated for education, which gives us $141,739,000 available to spend of the current property tax at the current rate.
At the certified rate.
At the certified rate.
Certified.
The current.
Not at the current rate.
The current certified rate.
Yeah.
Current certified rate. Certified rate for 2014.
Now, the penny can go up, but the certified rate will stay the same.
And that's what you see. Thank you for bringing that up. The penny would bring, a general fund penny would bring $609,580. And I believe last year I had that page marked, so I started playing with it.
But if that changes, the certified rate does not. Certified rate is set in stone at this point in time.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so that's $609,580 compared to what we adopted our budget on for the current year, a penny bringing $586,703.
That
It's
between
like you
now
say.
and June 30th, that penny could nudge up a little bit with new property coming
Right.
online. Yeah, new construction.
Right. So we'll touch base again with the assessor to see where his assessments are at that time. There'll also be a firm up of the tax freeze properties. These are estimates on that using last year's information. So now we'll kind of just briefly go over all the funds, kind of give you a sense of where we are. Our estimate for revenue in the general fund is $82,213,650, with appropriations 84, with the mayor's recommendation of $84,250,671, which would require us using a little over $2 million of our existing fund balance. when you see when I use this term budgeted unassigned fund balance, that's where our budgeted number is. That will change when we do our revenue estimates. Just gives you a sense of where, at what point in time I'm talking about, because, okay. So, using the budgeted unassigned fund balance, our ending fund balance would end up at 16% of appropriations, which is within our policy. So with the mayor's recommendation, we meet our policy. If you wish to ensure that our revenues agree to our appropriations, you would need a little less than 3.4 pennies.
You said the mayor's recommendation, is that including the sheriff's department? Have you completed that yet?
This is the mayor's recommendation on the sheriff's department. It does not include the sheriff's recommended change in pay.
That's okay. We'll get to that soon enough.
The next page talks about the development tax. As I said, in next year, we are estimating the 1/2 that goes to the general fund at $1,225,000, and that being allocated $700,000 for the sheriff's vehicles, $285,000 for the fire department, $120,000 for GIS, and $120,000 for OIT, capital outlay. Up above, you see that we're talking about the estimated revenue for the current year under the 13-14 is $1,250,000. I'm just putting in there that at that point in time when I pulled this, we would need to adjust this by $490,000 when we go through do our revenue estimate. So with that adjustment, we're estimating the ending at $1,009,000 for future projects.
You're estimating $2.5 million next year in development tax. Am I reading that right? Because half of it goes to the debt service.
Right.
Well, $2,450,000 is what you got.
Yeah, $2,450,000.
Which is reasonable, maybe conservative.
Yeah, that's the thing about these budgets, they're conservative,
Yes.
so usually expenditures won't quite make it to that point, and usually revenue will be more than that, so, and so we can easily budget going into fund balance some because it's never as bad as it could be.
Well,
But,
and
yeah.
I always look at this, what if it is as bad as what we say it
Yeah.
is gonna be? Do we still meet the policies?
Yeah.
If for some reason something happened and you don't make your revenue estimates, or, you know, or the
We don't have
others.
any choice but to budget worst case scenario, but.
In the solid waste fund, the revenue estimates total $3,404,100. Appropriations, mayor's recommendation is $4,512,208, using $1.1 million, 8,108. There are no pennies or property tax allocated to this fund. If you wish to balance it, you would need equivalent of 1.83 cents. There are no policies around this fund's fund balance. Worst case scenario, our ending fund balance would be at $2,566,962. And just let me say that this is the mayor's recommendation. We meet our policies. When I'm saying, if you wish, that's the mayor's not recommending that you do that. It's just that I'm just putting that in there as a, if you wanted to balance. And really, that's how much of fund balance we're using. The equivalent of, whatever I just said on that, on the solid waste. We're using the equivalent of 1.83 cents of the fund balance. The ambulance fund is another fund that the mayor recommends on. The total revenue is $9,873,988. Appropriations for this one is recommended at $11,861,545, which requires to use $1,987,000 of our fund balance, which is the equivalent of about 3 cents, a little more than 3 cents. With this estimate, Again, this is a budgeted number. We'll adjust revenues, appropriations. We are estimating that this fund would end at $1,226,000. Economic Development Fund, this revenue, the only revenue that comes in here is from the note that we have with the Airport Authority that you approved to change the terms. So we will have less revenue coming into this fund. Revenue is estimated at $6,467,000. The expenditures or appropriations in this fund is the same. There's really no different than what we've had in years past. So the estimate is at $243,600. We're estimating the ending fund balance of this one to be $276,133. You probably have one more year out of this fund.
What's the expenditures? Give me an example of what's
The
in
large
here.
one is Destination Rutherford, and the other one is the Joint Economic Council. It's really the only two things that's paid out of here, and then a portion that we share with Smyrna. The Special Purpose Fund, this is the asset forfeiture. This is the fund that we can't recognize any revenue ahead of time. We only recognize it as it comes in. As a conservative number, just to have something going into next year, just estimating that their ending is going to end around 9, and just estimating 5,000 in expenditures. After we close the books and they come back in August, when we look in the August, they will amend what they really did not spend and bring that back in. In the drug fund, revenue estimate is $465,600, expenditures at $348,160. This fund, we do have revenues that exceed our appropriations by $117,440, which will increase their fund balance to an estimate of $833,000.
But we can't take this money and use it anywhere else. Is this the fund?
It's the one
that's restricted?
Yeah,
It's
we
restricted for drug. Now, they can do some one-time things. And I think last year, they did agree, this amendment that they did, the sheriff did agree to use $200,000 of it to do some building improvements.
We have that on the brick or the
No, it was something this
boiler or something, it seemed like, there's something like that.
I don't think that was an amendment he,
250 or something, wasn't
it was, no.
Did he-
200,000 was an amended budget when we came back in, and he agreed. That was that. Do you remember it was like 450 and 250 in the sheriff's budget, the jail budget, and we cut it down and we cut one, and he agreed to put 200 of this toward that improvement. So
But-
that's what that 200 was.
There's no people in this, though.
There are no people, I
Anymore.
appreciate you bringing that, there's no people, but it's been the sheriff's stance that overtime for those positions that, the narcotics positions, the overtime that they create is paid by this fund.
Okay. Now, can something like a vehicle for the narcotics people be bought out of this fund?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that is something.
And they do.
Okay.
Electrical work from a lightning strike where their office is, looks like we could be paid out of that fund.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah. There's your $46,198.
Fund 131, revenue, this is the Road and Bridge Fund. Revenue is estimated at $8,617,148. Appropriations are estimated, now, the mayor does not recommend on this, so this budget is what is being forwarded from the road board. Their estimate of appropriations is $9,249,064. Decrease of the fund balance of about $632,000 is needed. That's about slightly over a penny. What I'm giving you in these estimate is the assigned and the committed fund balance, and the committed fund balance being that amount of money that is committed for public works. Within that number, the estimate of the committed is $1,740,000. The next page gives you the maintenance of effort tests that we must make sure that we ensure that we maintain our effort, our local effort into the Road and Bridge Fund over the last 5 years, and this is as projection for the 13-14 year. The 5-year average is $4,314,000, and our estimated revenues into next year is $4,555,000. So we are maintaining our local effort into the highway fund, what we're demonstrating.
Can we squeeze that any tighter so we don't end up having to increase it? You know what I'm talking about, so.
Right.
Why can't we make it 400?
If you do, I'd rather you wait till closer to the end of the year so we really know. Because if these numbers that I've got in 13-14 come in a lot better, that's going to drive that average up.
Yeah.
I do remind you that we did take some
Yeah.
away from them.
Well, that's why I'm asking
Small part of
again.
a penny out last year.
Yeah,
Out of public works.
So we just need to keep an eye on that one.
Your challenge comes in with the next fund. The estimate of revenue for the school fund is $293,591,000. With the work through today, I guess y'all haven't changed it.
No.
Okay. At $309,978,000. Our appropriations are under the estimated revenue by $16,386,000. Again, I'm going back to the budgeted, beginning fund balance of $13 million. There's not enough in the budgeted fund balance. For appropriations at $309,978,000, a 3% fund balance would need to be maintained at $9,300,000. To balance, we would need a little, about 31.5 cents to balance the revenue and expenses. To make up the deficit and to get to the 3%, we need $12,307,000, which is a little less than 24 cents.
I suppose this isn't the time to get into the details, but in the future, we'll be interested in why this particular department's budget seems to be so different than the other ones.
Well, you have to remember how you adopted this budget, and you adopted it in the 13-14 year using $10 million of their fund balance. So that's a big piece of why this is the difference.
They promised to find the money to help open Stewart's Creek High School, but it didn't promise to help to find it for the next year and stuff. So that was a one-time shot in the arm, and now we've got to figure out how to keep it going.
They also gained some property tax last year.
They did, but even with the additional 5 cents, we still used over $10 million in fund balance to balance the budget, the 13-14 budget. The cafeteria, centralized cafeteria fund, revenue is estimated at $17,630,000, appropriations at $18,333,000. Using $703,000 of fund balance, they have sufficient fund balance. The test here is that the ending fund balance cannot exceed 25% of appropriations, and this demonstrates that they are meeting that test. Education Capital Projects Fund. Estimate of revenue is $2,421,216. Expenditures at $2,400,425. I will say that if the school board had the revenue estimates at the time that we have today, they would ensure that that additional 20 would be allocated to a project, and that very well may be as we move forward. If you go to the next page, I've given you a listing of what the school board is looking at to, as far as projects into the next year with these funds that total $2,350,000. However, if they had additional revenue, these are the other projects that they would fund. But it's really the top two, Blackman Middle, the mechanical system, and the re-roofing projects.
Well, they need a new roof, but we just gave them a new boiler.
Children.
That was Blackman Elementary, I
Yeah,
believe.
the
Oh,
elementary.
okay.
Yeah.
Debt service we went over last month, on this particular fund because we were getting ready to do the borrowing. The estimated revenue is $39,391,000. Appropriations expenditure for this fund is $41,637,000. We would be using $2,245,000 of fund balance to drive our fund balance. Now, took off budgeted because I did go. This fund is particularly easier to estimate revenue. There's not as many revenue line items that change. And did make the adjustment for the development tax, over half the development tax. So I've adjusted the beginning fund balance to $33,320,000. That's why it won't tie to your other first pages. But with this estimate, that our ending fund balance would be 75% of appropriations.
And what did we, is it 67%?
We've been using 65, 75, and I'm telling you that's
So we're okay.
We're okay.
Yep.
We're okay. The other thing I'll let you know, it's just an estimate for what we'll be borrowing for the new projects. Does not include the estimate for the airport. I'm really just gonna wait and tie that down when we got it, because I don't have it in the revenue, I don't have it in the expenditure, so that will just layer on top of this by the time we should be closing sometime in June. Before we adopt the budget, we can clean this budget up to be what it will be.
Can you tell us what is the maintenance effort for the schools that we have to have? Do you know?
It will be, well, the easy test is it the same dollar value, same number of local dollars that we put in last year to this year? That's your first test. And some, not for us, but for some schools that are declining, you may have less dollars go in. That's your, Jeff, you correct me if I'm saying this wrong, you may fail on that first level test, that you are putting less local dollars in, but your second test is what are you putting in per pupil. So a system who may be losing students, it may look like you're putting less local effort in, but you're putting less in because you have less students.
Mm-hmm. So what is ours?
It will
have to
clearly be in excess of what we spent this year.
I'm just curious.
But I'd have to just add up all that local revenue.
That we had for this year.
Which is all the property tax.
Yeah.
All the property tax going in there,
Sales
and
tax
interest.
and-
Right, that's local.
Mhm.
So
All that stuff.
property tax.
What roughly is it then? Do we?
Okay, wait a minute.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to the iPad.
I should have shut up.
In local property tax, I'll add this up in your head. We budgeted for the current year 62.7 million. I'll write it right, 62.7 million. So what was the local, okay, local option is 49 million.
About one.
Did we do statutory taxes? Yeah, that's local. That's 14,000.
The
14,000 is.
14,000 or
14,000 for local tax. That's
skip
just
that.
some, that's,
Yeah.
okay, let's get that. Okay, mayor's license.
Talking about-
Okay, what about fees? We don't do fees.
We need it with this revenue figure we're showing here. I don't remember exactly what it is, but we are meeting it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it's roughly it was 112 million was what it was this year we're in now. Okay, finishing up.
Where did you say it?
What
said
is that?
48.
That was in that
49.
second
Was that,
batch
that's your
of
second,
numbers.
that was your second batch, okay.
Yep.
112.
It encouraged people to shop in the county.
That's increasing, yeah.
That is increasing. They're building a lot of shops and
Oh,
stores
yeah.
in the rural areas,
It's
and
up.
that's helping
That's
us,
millions.
you know.
Yeah.
It's up almost 6%.
So it didn't come out 130.
That's how
And
it's-
again,
that one
you know, as we
twelve.
did in
That's
prior
1,000.
years,
Oh, that's 14,000.
our estimate for the current period for sales tax was 44,100,000. We're estimating 46.8 million next year. we estimated 44.1 million in the current year, but we're gonna get more than that once we amend our revenues. But next year, we've got estimated 46.8 million. So we are increasing our local effort by just the local sales tax and the increase in the penny. We're increasing, to your question. We're
So,
meeting our
yeah.
local effort.
Well, right there, we have no control over that. I mean, that goes to them whether they need it or not, right?
Well, the sales tax absolutely
Yeah,
goes to
because
it.
isn't that state law?
Yes.
Okay. And so is Murfreesboro share.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so with consolidated budget, total revenues at 457,615,000, I rounded that. Appropriations, 482,819,000. With, as you can see, we cannot end in a deficit fund balance. So as Ms. Ely asked, how can we fix that? Some of it will, when we go back through and we get the revenues for May, and we make our adjustments in June, and we see what revenue estimates can we do, what appropriations that we really conservatively feel like we will not spend, that we can say will roll into fund balance. That will help the situation. Well, appreciate you picking that up. That's the last page. I believe in the general fund and all funds that the mayor recommends on, there was a net no increase in positions. There was one that was given up out of the juvenile detention and one added to the building maintenance department. There were 4 positions, that were requested. 4 new were requested, only one was added, but again, one was taken away.
And one was given up out of the mayor's office over to OIT, but you've already done that.
Yeah. Well, property assessor's office. There were some added in there when 2007 or something like that. Well, and it's still there, right? 34, but aren't they getting these new systems that are supposedly saving personnel? Don't they have those?
Are you asking?
I think even now, I'm not sure they have
I
filled
don't-
all the
I
positions
don't
that
think
they
they
have
have
currently
filled.
I don't think
allocated.
I think they have some
I
vacant
think they still have some
positions.
vacancies that they've
Okay.
not filled ever.
Well, should we
But
drop one? I mean, then if
Well, as
they
we
got
come
30.
through, as we talk about those budgets.
Specifically, we can.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
I
that
just-
man comes up here and what you got administrative.
But I think that this has come up, they've changed some of them, so the mayor's talked to them, that's what.
That's one
I was
reason I
asking.
brought that up earlier on that insurance renewal. Employees up 544. That's ridiculous. We're adding one in county general this year. I mean, we're not out hiring people by the dozens or the hundreds or anything like that,
For years.
Well, just remember, we've added, during the year, we've added an LPN to the health department that's paid by the state. That was in Mascarac. And then we've added 12 firefighters.
They're paid by
That's
grant.
paid by the grant. So, a little bit.
School system hires. Yes.
All right.
Okay, so
Population
that's
increase.
the overview. This is what we're gonna test all this out. You don't have to take this home, because I will give this out to you next time. Or you can take this home if you would like to look at this. I'll give it to you. I have to print it out again. We'll do it that way.
Add some more paper to your budget.
Or you can just leave it here.
We'll pick it up.
Yes, we'll pick it up. And this is the general fund, and so this is how we envision next week, because we'll be coming back Tuesday. This will list, this is the page on the iPad when we get to the general fund. Go and practice on which page that we need to go to in the expenditures. So it gives you the bottom line numbers of what they were prior year, and these are the kind of the numbers that Ms. Easley kind of goes over. And there's your scorecard, line 6, where y'all will make your recommendation as we go through. We'll go through it the same way. You'll have the same pages on the iPad as you did in the notebook.
So we're gonna get these every time, so we can make notes
Yes.
before we change those.
Well, I'll give it to you. That's why I say you can leave it now. I'll have it for you Tuesday, but that was kind of what I thought maybe that, and then we'll have yellow pads for you if you want to keep your notes. Are y'all as excited as I am, though?
Notice all of us, we're using this.
We look excited.
Yeah, they ain't come through.
Okay.
Well, tribute some of Mr. Robert Stevens, thinking about taking him out and beating him up.
Gentlemen, is there any other business that needs to come before our committee? Okay, I will remind you, our next meeting is Tuesday, and that will be at 5:30, and that will be the first of 3 meetings where we will be working on the general fund. So we will be working on the
Yeah, I
general
think we'll be
fund.
getting some more too.
Yeah,
Not just general, it's all the funds.
19th of those, DEA, drug
Yeah.
fund, ambulance service.
Well,
Economic development,
Well,
solid waste.
we'll get to that one, but we start the general fund.
Yeah, right, we start the general fund.
No, it could be on the side, it could be in the bottom.
All right, Tuesday,
Just find out.
gentlemen, Tuesday, May 13th at 5:30. See you back here then. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Just find a hole that looks like.